Most of us carry questions we never say out loud. Questions about loss, identity, contradictions, and what it means to be human. This podcast is a place to sit with these questions without rushing towards answers. I'm Aya Karuni, and this is You and Aya. This episode is sponsored by Carbon Coffee Lounge on 33rd and A in Lincoln, Nebraska. All right. Today's guest is Dr. Catelyn Bridges. I met Catelyn last year in 2025 when we both started in the same institution. And when we met, we just clicked. She was funny, she was outgoing, and she was just like so amazing. But then we got to talk about things. And later I find out that she has, behind all of the success that she is right now, she has all of these stories behind the scenes of academia and institutions and the struggles that you have to go through being a Black woman in these kind of fields. So Catelyn kind of walks us through her process of never quitting, believing in her faith, pushing through to get to her vision of being a doctor in the women of STEM, engineering and mathematics and all of that. So Catelyn, I hope you like this interview, and I hope you enjoy this conversation and you take something out of it of what do we really not see behind the scenes when we're not in other people's shoes. So I hope you enjoy this episode, and to be continued. Like and subscribe. Hey, peace. All right. Today's guest is Dr. Catelyn Bridges. Catelyn, welcome aboard. How are you?
You know, I'm feeling good. Feeling good. I like being here. Yeah.
Thank you so much for agreeing. I feel like I've been pushing you. It's like, please be on the show. Please be on the show. Mm-hmm. And I'm so glad that you said yes. So thank you about that.
No problem. Yeah, I love listening to your podcast when I'm commuting back and forth to work. So, you know, I already know the vibe. So I'm like, of course, I'll be here.
That is so true. You've listened to season 1.
I listened to all of season 1.
How did I forget that?
Yeah. I would come into your office and be like, hey, here we are.
Yeah.
You made me think. Yeah. So I appreciate you.
Mission accomplished. Thank you. That means a lot. Thank you. We can talk about this another day about season 1. But let's dive in. I'm so curious. Tell us, who is Catelyn?
That's a good question. Catelyn is an Omaha native. I am a mother. I am a daughter. I am a sister. I'm a friend. And I am someone who is a woman of faith. And so I think that is what drives a lot of my why and how I do things and how I show up and how I treat people. So I feel like that's the core of who I am. And professionally, you know, I racked up these degrees like, what's his name? Thanos, collecting the rings in Marvel. That's me. So I've just been collecting them. Yeah. But outside of that, I feel like really who I am is those relationship pieces of how I show up in those spaces and how, I want to be loved and how I love others. So.
Beautiful. Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing who you are. I kind of knew some of those, but there are some new ones that I had no idea about. So thank you for sharing. But you and I met, it's been almost a year. It's going to be a year in August, this August, 2026.
Wow. Yeah, we're locked in.
We started the job at the same time almost. And then when you came into my office, it was like an immediate click. I was like, okay, Catelyn is so cool. And I just I need to know her more. And that's how kind of like our conversation started, right? Yeah. And I kind of today, I want to dive into your experience with academia.
Okay.
And kind of dive way deeper into those. You kind of have the idea. But tell me, were you always interested in pursuing a career in academia?
No, I wasn't. I knew that I wanted, when I was growing up, I was always good at school. So school was like my escape from whatever was happening at home. And so if you don't know Omaha has, it's still pretty segregated. So I grew up in North Omaha, and that's where most of Black population is. So that home life was just a little bit chaotic. So my escape was going to school. And so I knew that I was always good at math and science. You know, I was out here reading, comprehension was high, so But when I started to pursue or think about college, I wanted to leave Omaha. So I immediately, right after I graduated high school, like 1 month later, I just drove down to Atlanta because I wanted to leave, and I went to school there.
Whoa.
Yeah, so I was like, I got to get out of here.
Okay, so you just applied over there and just kind of left?
So I knew I applied to several schools. None of them were in Nebraska. Because I wanted to leave Omaha really, really bad. And so, but I got accepted to Spelman, which is one at HBCU in Atlanta. Nice. And I went there for a year, changed my life, okay? Wonderful time. The best year. I was only there for a year.
Really?
It was a great time. I learned how to twerk. Yeah. I learned how to get my rhythm.
Did you say twerk? Yeah, okay, that's how you learned how to twerk. She did twerk in my office a couple of times. I was like, she's good.
It was just a space that I could find out who I was outside of where I grew up, what was the norm. So it was allowed me to understand, like, who am I without all of the chaos around me, and not having to perform, like, educationally wise to say, this is how I can reach or this is how I can get out. So it was a space for Catelyn just to figure out who I was for that short period of time, which was nice. Fast forward to, I didn't have enough money, so I couldn't stay at Spelman. So I had to come back to Nebraska. I finished my undergrad here, but right the day after I graduated, immediately left.
Was it California?
It was to Texas. So I went to Texas A&M for 2 years for my master's, and then I ended up in California. I didn't see myself in academia until after my experience at Texas.
So tell me about that one.
Yeah.
What happened in Texas?
Well, I immediately left because I'm like, okay, I literally cannot stay in Nebraska. I have to go, clearly. Because towards the end of my program, I was told that I wasn't gonna get to where I was going to get to unless I met like a diversity quota, pretty much. Oh. So my accolades, the things that I did, some people saw that it wasn't good enough to be successful in academia. So I was told time and time again that I wouldn't even make it this far.
In Texas?
In Nebraska.
In Nebraska.
Okay. So that was one of the reasons I'm like, I don't see myself here. I don't want to do this. So I need to leave. And then going to Texas, I actually was going there. I didn't have a job. I wasn't in graduate school at all. I just went because my then boyfriend, now husband, was going there. Gotcha. And he was already there because he graduated a semester before me. So I'm like, okay, I got a place to live. I got a little comfort. You can hold me down for a little bit, right? Yeah. So then, so when I went there, he actually met someone at church, and that person was like, hey, there's this new faculty member at Texas A&M, and she's looking for students. And I'm like, okay, let me see. Because before I even started Texas A&M, I was studying biomedical engineering because I thought I wanted to cure diabetes. Long story short, I started messing with rats, and I'm like, oh, I cannot be in the lab killing the mice. I named the mice. They're dying. I can't do it.
You're killing the mice.
It was
that
a
must
murder.
be hard, though.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
So I knew I didn't want to keep in the medical space, but I didn't know where it would lead me. But meeting this woman, she was the first Black woman in like bio and ag engineering in Texas A&M. She was the first one to have a child. So I just saw the way she moved and the way she operated that I'm like, wait, I think I could do this. Yeah. And so having her validate and pour into me for those 2 years really changed my perspective of how I saw myself as a researcher or educator or even someone in academia, because she was the first example that I saw as a Black woman in that space. Like before that, I didn't have really a Black person in my classrooms. I was the only one in the classroom as a student. There was no educators, no researchers. So I never saw myself as being identified in that space or in that role. So once I saw her, I'm like, oh, one, I like the way you're living. Yeah. Two, you seem like you have a freedom about what you get to choose to research, who you get to choose to be in your lab, the kind of space you create in this like little ecosystem amongst like this huge institution. Outside of her lab, I felt like a very small fish in a very large ocean. Yeah. But inside of her lab, I felt special. I felt unique. I felt that she poured into me, and that really changed who I saw myself in academia. Yeah. So that's when I decided to go.
Wow. So, okay. So having this representation
Yeah.
of someone that looks like you,
Exactly.
that's doing something that you dream
Yeah.
of becoming a reality was right there in your face.
It was right there in my
and you're
face.
like, this is what I need to do. So living this whole time in Nebraska, Omaha, or maybe even Lincoln, you never saw anyone that represented you. You never saw anyone that was, I mean, it's insane. In that big institution, you would think they, advocate for diversity and inclusion, and yet, here we are. So it took you your own personal courage of I'm leaving. It's like as if something else was waiting for you, for you to get there. Wow.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah. No, it was chaotic. It was chaotic. I didn't know. I didn't know what it was bringing me.
Wow. Okay. So you move there, you see this representation, and you're like, okay, now I can make it because someone else that looks like me has achieved this. Okay. So what happens next from there?
To what's the, okay.
To okay, bringing us into the pursuing that career, the challenges, the things that you had to face.
After that master's program, I was pretty tired.
Okay.
I was like, oh, okay, to go to a PhD sounds a little chaotic. I really needed to, because it was agriculture. I changed from biomed, doing this very medical research in the lab, pipettes, all kind of things, to then going into this ag space, which, one, I wasn't aware of the impact that agriculture has on our economics, our health, our environment. And so that didn't connect because growing up in Omaha, that just wasn't something that was near to where I grew up at. So we barely even had grocery stores around. So thinking of how close agriculture meant to Nebraskans, it just didn't click to me until I got to that space to say, oh, wow, this is so integrated into our lifestyle, our livelihood, that I could still make an impact in this way. But I wasn't just trying to research a normal crop. I'm I cannot do cotton. I have to do something that aligns with me. So that last semester at Texas A&M, I took a cannabis production course.
Yeah.
And I'm oh, people are out here making money. And so that really showed me all of the avenues that hemp and cannabis could be used for. And I'm oh, okay, this has been used historically. It just got prohibited. And then that gave me a real closeness because I knew the war on drugs just based on my lived experience and seeing how that affected families, how that affected our homes. And so once I was okay, people are in jail, but people are making money, but there's research happening. So maybe I can apply my skills to this agriculture space. But first, I need to understand what is even happening. Hence, I go to California.
Wow. Okay, so back up. So you already knew you didn't want to research any kind of crop, just the random, the most popular.
I didn't want to research the high commodity.
Yeah. Why?
Because that has no interest to me. I don't care about corn.
So how did the hemp then come up? Was it introduced to you? Did you find
it was in that class? That I realized because it was 2020 when I took early 2020 when I took the class because I graduated my master's in summer 2020, pretty much. And so once I took that class, it was 2 years after the Farm Bill legalized it. So people were growing it, people were researching it. There was dispensaries, all kind of stuff in terms of hemp use and then medical marijuana.
Gotcha.
And so once I realized, okay, hemp has all these different attributes and it hasn't had research, time, resources given to it. People know the uses of it, but the research is lacking. And so once I realized that there's a space for research to happen, I said, oh, now I can use my skills in agriculture that I just learned in my master's program, but also be able to bring in this social context of what cannabis and hemp has done to communities and families. And so now I can bring kind of essentially my Blackness into my work that is usually not really relevant when you're looking at agriculture. Corn doesn't matter to me as a Black person, but cannabis, things that have destroyed communities and Black communities and people are still in prison, that means something to me. So now I have a passion rooted in the work that I do with the skills that just comes from me being an ag engineer. And so that's kind of how it merged. And here I am after going to my PhD program, obviously. But.
Wow, that's awesome. It's we always, you find these people where they're passionate about something. They're oh, I'm going to become an OT or a PT, it's because like they've been through some sort of thing that was like, I've been through it and then I want to help it. So for you, it's like, it was kind of almost became personal, like, wait, there's a history there and I can like use it for good. But were there times where you just like felt like you just didn't belong?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, so
cannabis is not also a very inclusive space to be in. So after I graduated with my master's, I went to California and I worked for a company. And pretty much the company was like an organic garden supply company, but all of their customers were recreational cannabis growers. So I had to go to their farms or their greenhouses or whatever their operation was and try to tell them to use our products. So I would see the range of farmers, producers, people growing recreational cannabis for, dispensaries and things of that nature. And every single person was white. A white man. Well, every single one. Of course. So I'd be driving in the boondocks of like California mountains, going to visit somebody in their farm, and I'd be like, all right, hopefully I don't die today because I see propane tanks, I see people running around here with chainsaws. It's kind of crazy. So like if you ever heard of like cannabis, there's this emerald triangle that's in California, and it's like these three golden, it's supposed to be this area that like prime cannabis could be grown because of the elevation, the environment. It's supposed to just create beautiful, wonderful flowers, but it's also the most sketch place.
Really? I've never heard of it.
Yeah, that you could ever be in. So it was also a little bit scary because I was like, okay. Yeah, so it was where DEA raids happens. Like, it was just pretty sketch there, but I think it gave me a range of understanding of who is growing the stuff and who has opportunity to be engaged in the industry, because everybody on the dispensary side was mostly white too. So there wasn't really any representation for who I was or where I was showing up at.
So how does that connect now that you see like this is, the history of all of that happening that's very personal to you, but then there's like a whole other like race that's like kind of like invested in it and like doing all of those, like how does like
it's a juxtaposition for sure.
How are you like wanting to like kind of bring it to light to the community of like, wait, it's been this and now like how would you connect those dots for us to see like the bigger picture of like, why is it always the white male figures that are dominating these places?
I think that's what really drove me to go and get my PhD, because I just reflected on, okay, I know how my advisor cultivated the small culture that she had in her own small lab group. And so me thinking, okay, if I already have the research background, now I have this cannabis background, what can I do to now change the perception of who can do this type of work in this type of space? And so the way I thought I could be the most impactful was not only using my skills to answer research questions that have never been answered before because of prohibition of cannabis, but how can I now bring people who have diverse thoughts into a space to do this type of research and this type of work? And the way I could do that is to have my own research lab group and then to recruit the students that I want to see in the space that will go and be influential in their own way. So now I'm very intentional about bringing Black and brown students, women, into my lab group so then they can get exposed to cannabis and hemp, and then they can go and live their lives and maybe make jobs or opportunities for others to get exposed to the knowledge that we already deserve to have. Yeah.
So now you're at a moment that you will be that representation for people. Yes, because I mean that's incredible though. Seriously, like given everything, like but how many women we have in that department, like let alone Black, you're the only Black person in there, and I'm just like, sometimes you don't really realize it. I was in the Emeriti like meeting 2 days ago. It was all old white men, and I was the only woman in there, and one guy on the Zoom was like, who is this young lady? And I'm like, what is going on? This is so weird. But then I remember you saying how you're in, you're gonna go all the way, you're gonna give it your all, and you're gonna end up on those like the creepy pictures on the
wall.
On the wall, you're gonna be the first Black woman on there. Isn't that like, it's insane, because it brings me to like the most important question, like the mentorship. How important is mentorship when it comes to these institutions, when it's like the domination of who is, or gender and race and all of that. Did you have good mentorships in your programs?
Well, my doctoral program, not so much.
No.
But that master's program really showed me, and even before that, I have a mentor from high school. I have a mentor from that one time, the year I was at Spelman, so there's been people that I've always fostered a relationship with that gives me good advice. Most of them are in higher education. They're just in various different spaces. They're like either staff where they work in centers and they're like in that space where they're serving the student population specifically. And then now as I move forward in my career, I have more people who are in these spaces of research and teaching that I then lean on. There's really not a lot of people at the institution that I feel connected enough to continue to foster those relationships in a way that's like meaningful. But one thing that has changed my life is the National Society of Black Engineers. And that is where I found a lot of mentorship, because everybody looks like me. And then we're all at least pursuing this goal of this tenure track position or research assistant professors. And so that allows me to have a space where we can commune and have conversation about what we're experiencing. And some of them have been in the game for a long time. So I don't even want to know what was like 30 years ago. But like now, understanding where I'm at now, having those people who have done it, who are like retired versus who just got tenure, those type of relationships have really shown me how do I move in a space where I don't have mentorship on site, but they're external to the institution. Yeah. But it's really important.
It's a huge
It's
part.
huge. Yeah,
when you don't have someone backing you up, just believing in you and trusting that you can make it. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy
It
time
is.
that we live in.
Yeah.
But it kind of makes you think, like, in terms of like having that, if you don't have that mentorship, then that kind of like creates more challenges for you.
It does.
To like navigate, because again, so how does, like, I'm sure there were days where it's just so hard for you to continue. You're like, F this, I'm done. I want to, what keeps you going? What keeps Catelyn going when she bumps into those like obstacles?
Well, I can give you an example of how I navigate things.
Hit me.
Okay, so in my doctoral program, everything was great. I'm out here grinding. I'm out here being an independent researcher. But then, like, out of nowhere, my advisor, once I was ready to leave, my advisor pretty much told me that I wasn't ready to leave. And so that really crushed me because, one, I had this job waiting on me for like 2 years. So I needed to get done and I needed to finish. So having someone that I thought would be a mentor end up being someone who tried to really stifle my next move, I think what really motivated me was, one, my husband, because he was like, you know what, we don't, you got to pick yourself up, girl, because we got some place to move to, we got things to finish, and first of all, you've been in school forever, so you gotta wrap this up.
Time.
And so I think having his just him being the rock that I needed during that time really helped me. And then also my daughter, like I had Nia my first year of my PhD program. So she was my main driver of like, I can't be here forever. I have to get done. If I have to be in the field for hours doing whatever, then I'm going to do it. So that was a huge motivation. And then also my faith. Like, I feel like when challenging times happen, and that's just the name of life. So it's like, how do you go through the suffering and still find the light within the suffering? So I feel like those experiences only make me more wise and more like grounded in who I am, because it's not forever. It sucks in the moment. But what am I going to do to keep my head held high and not change my values or not treat people differently during those times of struggles? Because I wanted to cuss that lady out, but I did not.
Okay, good.
I did not.
Yes,
I acted very professional, and I made it through. But there were times that I'm like, why is this happening? Why does it have to be so challenging, or why is this so hard? But it's going to be hard when you are one of the first to be doing this type of research, or one of the first to get into an institution that doesn't have other Black women in engineering. So it's like, challenges and suffering is going to happen during this process. It's all about like, what am I doing during those times of suffering? And then what do I do after the suffering is happening? Am I grateful? Am I reflective? Am I doing the things that allow me to know where that growth happened during that time of hardship? So I feel like that's kind of what I really lean into is my faith, my husband, and my daughter, who holds me very accountable.
She sure does. But you seem to be very self-aware in terms of how you want to handle this. It looks like you've been dealing with
therapy.
it for...
Yeah.
Okay. Kudos to therapy. We all need therapy, don't we? Like, legit, we do. So what was the professor's reasoning for not letting you go? Was it like a selfish reason?
It was purely selfish.
Like, you're so good, I can't let you go?
I can't let you go. And I also feel like she didn't see herself in my work. Because when I came to the program, I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. I just need you to open the door. And she was like, okay. And I'm like, okay, you open the door, so let me just do my thing. And so I felt like she didn't realize how fast I was going and how efficient I was going to be, especially since I had a child. She thought I was going to be there longer. Like the the person who graduated PhD before me, he was there for 8 years. Yeah. And then the postdoc that she had, she's still probably there now. She's been there for like 9 years.
Oh,
and so people stay there for a long period of time. So when I was done at 4, she was like, wait, you have not done your time. And I'm like, but I have the data.
Is this person? You haven't done your time.
Like, so that was insane. The vibe. So I think it was really like, she didn't see where she was a part of my journey because I was so independent.
Yeah.
And then also she didn't think I was ready to go because the time that I spent, she didn't associate it with the time, success. With the success.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. So you're ahead of your time, technically.
Kinda. Yeah.
Okay. So you lean on your family, your husband and Nia, and then on faith. So let's say, what would you say for women or Black women or any kind of woman that wants to go within those like man-dominant, white-dominant places, a big institution, like with all of these like resistance, and people kind of get comfortable. People don't want to fight. They don't want to voice certain things. So like for you, you were like, you had a vision. You must have had a vision. Otherwise, you're not moving forward, right? So the vision is...
Well, part of that vision was my husband was like, you need to wrap this up.
So it was more of a pressure than a vision.
He was like, all right, girl, you've been in school for a long time. But part of that vision was I really enjoy the autonomy that being a professor gives you. Like, nobody is clocking me except sometimes, you know, but I just have to be in the classroom. But if I choose to work somewhere else, I can work somewhere else. Nobody's questioning me. I can be at my daughter's piano recitals, gym practices, you know, things of that nature. Yeah. So that autonomy over my time and my life really drew me to wanting to do it. And then also I feel like there's a space where you do have to be confident in who you are. Like, doubting yourself is not going to get you far, because once they see a little crack, they'll just start chipping away at it. So I feel like I just address my job as something that I want to be excellent at. So can I cuss on here? Half-ass? Okay.
You're the second person that asked that today. Feel free to cuss.
I'm not going to half-ass stuff. Yeah. Like, I'm not about to be excellent. Everything I do, I'm going to give it my all. And maybe that all is maybe 80%, but it's all of what I can do at that moment. And I don't like selling myself short. So I feel like walking in the room with confidence, having my own opinions, and also being rooted in my values really allows me to not care who's in the room or who's not, because my voice is my voice and my lived experience is my lived experience. So you're not going to be able to take that away. So I feel like when I'm in these faculty meetings, I usually talk up, I usually speak up, and you could take what you want, but hey, at least I said something, and I'm not about to quiet myself because I am the only Black woman in the room or the only Black person. But I'm going to tell you all that it's not looking too diverse in our students, you know? Like, what are we going to do to recruit other people? Yeah. So it's like me bringing my lived experience, I feel like is all I really need, and that confidence enough to say something about it, rooted in that, I think is what really drives me to be in these spaces. And I feel like that's what should drive other women or Black women or women of color in the spaces that they don't see themselves in, is being comfortable with their lived experience and not sharing everything. I feel like there's parts of my story that I would never tell people that are my colleagues now, but I can choose and pick different stories that still allows them to see who I am and my lived experience to then vocalize why am I saying the things I'm saying or moving the way that I'm moving.
Absolutely. Wow. You're always vocal. Yeah. I love that about you. And I think like that's something, I mean, in general, but no matter who you are, like you really need to voice certain things. Like just kind of say it respectfully. You always do, you know, but that's a problem I'm seeing lately. It's like everyone is just like afraid to offend or afraid to say certain things or how is it going to be perceived? But like having that confidence is so important, especially in those like sensitive situations and topics. So now that you're like in a faculty position, you kind of reach that definition of success. You're like you're continuing. We're always succeeding with every step. But like now, how like with authority being perceived, like you are, I think we talked about it once before, being Black and a woman. How does like the authority being perceived by these students or other faculty members, what do you think about it in terms of?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
You know, it's not only just being a woman and being a Black woman. It's also, I'm perceived hella young, you know?
So that's three.
So it's like the age. I feel like I get met with, I think somebody said the other day, I don't remember what I said to him, but he was like, wow, that's what my 13-year-old daughter says. I'm like, bruh, she just on TikTok? Or like, what's the vibes? I don't know what you mean by this. Okay. So it's like that age, I think my age is also being perceived as someone who might be a little bit more novice in their experiences. So I feel like I'm battling in front of the students think I'm their peer. And when I draw a boundary, they're like, whoa, you were supposed to be cool. And I'm like, whoa, you still need to do your work. Yes. You know, so it's like that piece. But then also when I speak about my lived experience, sometimes it's hard for people to even understand or empathize where I'm coming from. So I feel like I'm not about to over-explain myself, but I will say something and give my reason why and end it at that. So I feel like that struggle of like, I don't want to have to overly explain my lived experience. I don't want to have to talk to you about why I'm changing my hair, because you probably see my hair be 7 different ways since I've started. And so part of nice. Thank you. I appreciate that. But it's like, you know, there are some people that for example, I wrote a grant with this one person in January. I saw her, my hair was different. She didn't know who I was. Oh, goodness. So it's like those experiences that people wouldn't understand, but me just being a Black woman, I just have to like live through it. And some things I can vocalize, but I have to pick my battles. And the battles that I'll rather fight versus talking about that was a microaggression or whatever, I would rather say, hey, these are systemic changes that we can implement, so then the students that I bring in are not as heavily affected as I was. So I pick and choose the battles that I fight based on the identities that I live in, and what could serve the people coming after me the most. So, you know, when that lady didn't recognize me, I'm like, girl, I just wrote a grant with you, but if you don't know who I am, it's cool. Guess I'll see you next summer.
There it is in your face. Oh, that's insane. You know, so that's like, okay, this is perfect because, for example, who would relate, right? Yeah. Like in terms of, you know, a different race, like, like I would never like think about that. But these are things behind the scenes that you're always going through. And on top of that, your age. And on top of that, you know what I mean? Being a woman and all of that. And I really think we're so stuck in our own orbit all the time. It's always about me, the ego. How can that we really forget to be, again, we don't have to understand something or someone to be sympathetic with them. No. We just need to be respectful and kind. And for some reason, we just like refuse to do that.
Humans
which is
are sometimes just terrible.
Yeah, that's why I wanted you today to be my guest, because there's like so many behind the scenes that we just forget about, and like voicing those things, it's kind of leave the people with a question, wait, I wonder how that is for that person. Or I wonder if I was in that position, what would happen? So what's Catelyn's biggest battle at the moment? Like, what would you say your number one battle that you will always voice and fight for and put the others aside?
That's a good question. I think the battle that I will always fight for is we need to create equity within the landscape. So if we are recruiting or trying to bring in different types of students that we haven't in the past, we have to make it an equitable experience. So if they're coming from a different economical background or social background, what are we going to do to leverage their experience here so they don't have to work 3 jobs while doing engineering, while trying to do some research to get to grad school? You know, like what can we do to alleviate some of those challenges? And so every time in meetings, that is what I'm shooting for. Like, hey, let's start this pipeline program so then we can give them housing and books and things of that nature to really even the playing field. And I think serving the students in that way is like my biggest fight. All the research grants are going to come. Proposals are out, like it's whatever, but it's like, what are we doing for the students we're trying to bring into this space, and how do we keep them there and keep the students that are not our typical students here? Because there's been so many students who have come who don't see themselves in the program and then they leave. Because they see themselves somewhere else, or they have friends somewhere else that they more identify with. So like, what are we doing that keeps those students here, that creates a community here that they want to continue on in this space of ag engineering, which also is very limited on who has access to the space. So that's kind of what I envision.
Yeah. Do you think it's like one of your number one because you had to go through those things, and now you want to make them available for others to cut the struggles and the challenges? Yeah. I'm telling you, you're in the right place. You gotta. The challenges are not over yet. Unfortunately, we have like every single day we need to go through like little inconveniences that are just like build up, and that's amazing.
Nice.
Yeah, dude, I'm always there with you. Like, it's a huge step. So in terms of like wanting to, because now you're in that position, you're kind of like, you are a representation, right? You have that voice, and like, what do you think like the next step for you, like other than the research and advocating for those things? Do you think there is like
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
One thing I'm really envisioning myself, this is exclusive. I don't know where exclusive happens. I don't have any type of base of anybody, but here's an exclusive.
Okay.
But I really do just envision myself like doing stuff outside of here. Like, who am I outside of my profession? Who am I outside of those identities? Like, who is Catelyn? And that's like me doing hobbies, you know, giving myself some hobbies, but also, what can I do that's more effective outside of this institution? So can I be an advocate in policy that educates people about cannabis and hemp regulations? Like, what does that look like for me to be like Dr. Cannabis Kate, you know, like something, you know, something that aligns with who I am, that doesn't serve the institutions, but something that really drives the why behind my work and creating a name in that space to create more equitable opportunities in the ag space that I'm in terms of cannabis and hemp. So I see that not living just only in my lab or only in the classroom, but what does it look like for me to be outside of that and that identity as well? Yeah.
The extension of you, because I know sometimes it's like, who is Catelyn, or who is Aya, or etc. It's like a loaded question, but also it's like we change over time. We're like, I'm like constantly changing. I don't know. I can't just be one thing all the time. And I think that's the beauty of who we are, is we get to expand as we go. Yeah. I'll be there with you.
Help me get some hobbies, because wow, I didn't have hobbies for a long time.
Well, so what kind of hobbies do you have though?
You know, I make terrariums, like little terrariums with plants.
Cute.
And so I've been getting into gardening too, you know, and I play Pokopia. If you ever play Pokopia, it's like Animal Crossing / Pokemon.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So you build your own little Pokemon world.
Is it digital?
It's like on a Switch.
Cool. So digital, because they don't exist. Never mind. Forgot.
And, you know, I like that. I like drawing. I want to make stickers. I don't know, just have fun, like have my own stickers. So just getting into different spaces. I started crocheting.
Nice.
I made like 5 bookmarks. That's the only thing I know how to make, but it's crocheted.
I want one. Where's my bookmark?
They're kind of chunky. I don't know if you want them. I just lived through them.
I'll put it in the office.
But, you know, I'm just trying to like explore beyond what has been the norm for me in terms of education and professional pursuits. But also I feel like being a wife is demanding, being a mother is demanding, being all those other identities that I listed of who is Catelyn, those are all taking a piece of my time. So what does it look like to have a piece of my time just for me? You. And what do I want to fill that time with? So
like in a way, like when we started this conversation at the very beginning, you were kind of concentrating a lot on the fact that you're always like you studying is something that you've always been good at, math, science. But now that you've technically achieved some sort part of your legacy, right, is to be where you are today. Now you want to expand that legacy into something personal to kind of pay yourself back. And I hope everyone gets the chance to do that, because we're so occupied doing all of this crazy stuff to get a career and money, and things are crazy now, having just living in general. And to have the opportunity to do that, that's amazing.
Yeah, I feel like you know, when I reflect, I'm like, wow, I really did make it here, you know? So it is like I've achieved a huge milestone that, one, I never even knew was on my radar until I saw someone who looked like me who did it. Then I'm like, oh, I want to do that too. And then getting here is kind of like surreal. Like I haven't even had a moment to breathe. Like last summer, I was still writing my dissertation as I started the job. So when you met me, I didn't finish my dissertation yet. I was still writing. And mind you, first of all, they don't even check and see if you got your diploma. Which is crazy, but it is there.
Are they even real? No one has asked me for any job interview. Where's your diploma?
Like, you know, so it's like, but it's like all that work for them to be like, all right, welcome in. And it's like, oh, you weren't even going to verify if I got my PhD or not. So like, I haven't had a chance to breathe going into this academic year, and then wrapping it up with Canvas getting hacked. Like it was just like a
cherry on top for you. Here's an extra challenge.
So it was just like all this time I have just been on go. So like this is the first week, honestly, if I'm being honest, that I've been able to breathe. Wow. Because outside of this, it's just been like grinding and getting through. And now I'm finally having the moment to like reflect on how far I've come and what does this look like and how impactful it is that I've even gotten here. So, you know, just trying to be proud of myself. And I feel like I'm the type of person too that I struggle with like feeling the highs, but I could really feel the lows. But sometimes when highs come, I'm just like, you know, that was supposed to happen. Instead of like really relishing in the moment of like, wow, this is a high. I'm on a mountaintop right now and I'm not in a valley. So what does it look like to celebrate when I am on a mountaintop and screaming from the top, you know, because I'm excited and I'm happy and I'm proud of myself. So like really trying to understand how do I show up in those spaces to really feel all the feelings when they're good and not just feel all the feelings when they're down. When they're down.
I mean, we're a bundle of emotions. We have all of the emotions combined at once. Even if it was happiness, there's always an underlying fear and like sadness. But I mean, that's pretty incredible to have like all of that, because like when you go after what you want, and then it's like what you said, like the past year has been so packed that now that you have that time to breathe, you have nothing else but to reflect. It's like, wait a minute,
wait a second,
what just happened? So we're gonna wrap up a bit, but I want to ask one more question. Like, if you could change one thing about how the system in academia work, what would it be? An implementation or something to remove? Or both?
I would take away tenure. Absolutely.
Why?
Because there are people...
Explain tenure, what it is, and tell us why you want to take it away.
Okay. And I'm sure that's probably somebody who has a way more educated experience or wise. But I just feel like, okay, so tenure is this space of, not everybody is a tenure track professor, but usually when you are a tenure track professor, you have this probationary period. So you can have all these different kind of attributes to your job. Typical is like teaching and research. And so you have like a 6-year probation. At 6 year, you give all these documents to say, look, I'm a great educator and I'm a fantastic researcher. And that incorporates these different priorities that are acceptable for them to show that you are good. So you put up this big old dossier and then they say, hey, yes, you get tenure, or no, you don't. And once you get that, you become an associate professor. And then that's like pretty much your promotion. And so there's only 2 promotions after assistant professor, associate, and then full. And so that's another like 7 years before you put up another dossier. And then they say, look, I should be a full professor. So it's just a space to say, I can continue to explore the questions that I want and have autonomy over my time and not get reprimanded if I start to explore things that maybe are not associated with the institution or whatever. But I feel like that gets taken into I can do whatever I want. Whatever I want.
And I think that's where we're at these days. It's like, come at me, bro.
That's what it is. It's like, so I think that the tenure allows people to have safety, and they use that safety for not good, but to have a sense of power in terms of like I think I always bring this up, like the Stanford prison experiment. You know, it's like this idea of there was this research program, and they were trying to see what will happen if you were put as a prisoner or you were put as a guard. And the guards just start beating the crap out of the prisoners. So they had to stop the experiment because it was so bad. And that's where the IRB came from. So it's like, I feel like when people get in a position of power in academia, they start to use that power in a way that is harmful to the students or the people that are being trained to maybe even replace them or to extend the work that they have been training on. And I feel like that sense of power limits people, and it's harmful. And you also can't really say nothing because they're protected. So like, if I'm an assistant professor and I see an associate or a full professor acting crazy, I don't really have a say because they have power on if I get tenure or not. Everybody in
they have that upper hand on you.
They do. So they use that power also to stifle people who want to vocalize certain things that don't align with my values, but it's like that is harmful. So I think taking tenure away, I'll be the icing on the cake. Like, you could stay here if you earn it.
That's so true.
Do a little feedback survey from all the students and other faculty members to see how they feel about you. Maybe, I don't know, but like that tenure, you know, the tenure really.
I like that. I want to encourage you. Put my hand with Catelyn's hand. And let's take away tenure.
Take it
That
away.
is your request. Let's make it happen.
You know?
That's actually a brilliant point of view. And I maybe one day it might, or we can adjust the way it works.
At least
but I really
impact.
I don't know. Once you're in power, people get crazy.
And it just gets worse as you move up in administration and things. So it's just like seeing the way it operates and who has the power to like pull strings. It's like it's just very interesting. So I'm just going to keep observing, keep showing up as myself, and also realizing, I think the biggest realization that I had this year is like, people just don't have the same values that I have. So how do I keep true to my values when other people are trash? So it's like,
yeah, I mean, no, but that's important.
It's like reality.
You would assume that people that are in the same institution, same department, that they would share those values. But unfortunately, to each their own. They're like, I'm fighting for my own battle. I'm in charge. And
that's in all institutions, right? Like I've seen it. I've seen it at this current institution. I've seen it at my other previous 2 ones that I went to, that there's always, and I'm sure it's just in the workplace in general, that like,
you have those little micro communities.
That's
within. Yeah, that's insane. Vote for revoking tenure. My hand with you. Okay, so we're gonna wrap this up. This has been an amazing conversation.
Thank you.
So many insightful things to think about. What's behind the lens of people's successes? How did you get there? And how, like, what keeps you really pushing forward? Before we wrap up and finish this, is there any comments or a question you would like to ask for us to ponder on?
I guess the question that could be pondered on is, do you know your why and why you're doing it?
That's a good one. Do you know your why?
Do you?
Sometimes it gets lost.
It does.
But that's an excellent question. Do you know your why and revoke tenure? Thank you, Catelyn. Dr. Catelyn Bridges, it has been an honor.
Thanks, Aya.
So much fun. Thank you so much for being here. To be continued. This podcast is produced by Main Floor Media. Created, executive produced, and hosted by Aya Karuni. Creative producer Hank Ball. Co-produced Thais Murias-Jarcin. Set designer and production assistant Frida Thailander. Hairstyling for me, Anastasia Jennings. Plants and floral elements provided by Grateful Growers and Carbon Coffee Lounge. Additional support provided by Dr. Ron Breal, Jim Walker, Haifa Sleiman, and Widat Sleiman. With gratitude to our title sponsor, Carbon Coffee Lounge. Thank you so much for watching this episode with Dr. Catelyn Bridges. Coming up, stay tuned. Jen and Terry, the owners of Carbon Coffee Lounge on 33rd and A. Special episode. We're going to take you on a journey of why they're doing this. Stay tuned.